Okay, so we're doing another deep dive today,
Yeah.
and we are talking about Vietnam's economic boom.
Very exciting.
Yeah, it is, and I was going over all this research, and wow,
Yeah.
just some really wild numbers.
Yeah.
Like, their trade figures are almost double the country's entire GDP.
It's really remarkable.
How is that even possible?
Right.
And then on top of that, you have these huge companies like Apple and Google, shifting production over there.
Yeah.
So what is going on?
Well, you see Vietnam and people think textiles, right?
Right.
But it's becoming something much bigger
Yeah.
on the world stage. And
Yeah.
a big part of that is that shift you mentioned from apparel to electronics.
Okay, so let's break it down.
Yeah.
What is fueling this crazy growth spurt?
Well,
And all the research is pointing to FDI,
yes. Foreign direct investment, a huge driver.
and it's been averaging like 6% of Vietnam's GDP each year.
Right.
That's more than giants like China and South Korea.
Yeah, and FDI, it's not just about the money it brings in, it's so much more.
Right. You have the expertise, the technology transfer, access to global markets.
It's like rocket fuel.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It really boosts development.
And looking at the research, it's not just, a few countries investing.
Oh, no.
In 2023, they had investors from 111 countries.
Wow. That's incredible.
Singapore's leading the charge, almost $7 billion invested, followed by Japan and Hong Kong.
Diversification. That's key.
It is.
And you can't forget about Vietnam's location.
Right.
Southeast Asia prime real estate. Plus, they've been making their business environment more and more attractive.
Yeah.
And they have a young and eager workforce.
It's a pretty sweet deal for global companies.
Absolutely.
Which kind of brings us to the next point about the changing face of manufacturing in Vietnam.
Right.
I feel like most people still think of, apparel,
Yeah.
like clothes, Nike, Adidas, all those brands setting up shop there.
Right. But that was just the beginning.
Yeah.
The real game changer has been the boom in electronics manufacturing.
Yeah.
It's massive now. 40% of their exports. Okay, and here's where I think it gets even more interesting.
Oh, okay.
Remember all that trade tension between the U.S. and China?
Oh, yeah.
Well, it actually benefited Vietnam.
How so?
Companies like Apple, Dell, HP, even Google and Microsoft, they're moving parts of their production to Vietnam.
To diversify.
Exactly, spread the risk.
Interesting.
So now it makes you wonder,
Yeah.
could Vietnam become like a major player in tech manufacturing?
Right. What happens to the current leaders if that
It's
happens?
definitely something to watch.
For sure.
Okay, one more thing I have to bring up about Vietnam's trade activity.
Okay.
This stat just blew my mind. Their trade to GDP ratio is 185%.
Wow.
That means their trade is almost twice the size of their entire economy.
It's wild.
How does that even work?
Well, it shows how interconnected they are with the global market.
Yeah.
Importing raw materials, components, assembling them, and then exporting the finished product.
Yeah.
It's a model that's been working for them, but it does make them vulnerable.
Okay.
Like, if demand falls off or supply chains get disrupted,
They feel it.
big time.
It's kind of a high wire act.
It is.
But so far, they're nailing it.
So far.
It really is remarkable how quickly their economy has transformed.
Yeah. And as they continue down this road, there's a big question.
With that.
How do they keep this dependence on global trade in check?
Yeah.
While also making sure their growth is sustainable and benefits everyone.
That's the challenge.
And it's something we all need to be thinking about as we watch Vietnam's journey.
Definitely a lot to consider, and it seems like Vietnam's economic story is far from over.
Oh, yeah.
I'm really curious to see what happens next.
Me too.
There's so much more to explore.